Imagine for a moment a world not entirely our own. A world where you might walk through a forest and encounter a different kind of human. Not an ancestor, not a primitive forerunner, but a contemporary, an equal, a fellow intelligent species, with their own thoughts, their own families, their own way of seeing the world. For hundreds of thousands of years, this was not a fantasy. This was the reality on planet Earth, and our closest, most enigmatic relatives were the Neanderthals. They were a successful and resilient species, a testament to the power of evolution, who dominated the vast landscapes of Europe and Asia for a staggering amount of time. And then, in the grand cosmic blink of an eye, they were gone. Why? Why did one branch of humanity survive while another, just as sophisticated in its own way, vanished from existence? This is one of the greatest mysteries in the story of our own species. To understand this, we must first travel back in time and meet the Neanderthals not as the brutish caricatures of old cartoons, but as they truly were. The popular image of the Neanderthal, a stooped, club-wielding, dim-witted caveman, is a relic of early, flawed discoveries and a healthy dose of our own species' arrogance. The reality that modern science and archaeology have painstakingly pieced together is far more compelling. The evidence suggests they were a profoundly successful and intelligent people. Their story begins about 400,000 years ago, evolving from earlier hominins in the cold, challenging climates of Ice Age Eurasia. Physically, they were a masterpiece of adaptation. Shorter and stockier than most modern humans, with a powerful, barrel-chested build, their bodies were brilliantly designed to conserve heat in frigid environments. Their faces were distinct, with a pronounced brow ridge, a large, wide nose, perhaps to warm and humidify the cold, dry air, and a skull that, on average, housed a brain even larger than our own. For billions of years, evolution had sculpted life on this planet, and the Neanderthal was one of its most rugged and enduring creations. Their intelligence was not just theoretical, it's written in the stone and bones they left behind. Neanderthals were master toolmakers, creating a sophisticated toolkit known as the Mousterian industry. These weren't just crude sharpened rocks. They were specialized stone flakes, scrapers for preparing animal hides, points for affixing to spears, and blades for butchering. This required foresight, complex planning, and a deep understanding of materials. They were also formidable hunters. Chemical analysis of their bones shows they ate a diet rich in meat, successfully hunting some of the Ice Age's most dangerous megafauna: woolly mammoths, bison, and wild rhinos. This wasn't a matter of luck or scavenging. It required cooperative strategies, courage, and an intimate knowledge of the animal world. To take down a mammoth with a thrusting spear demanded a level of social coordination and bravery that we can only marvel at today. But what if their world was more than just a brutal struggle for survival? The evidence increasingly points to a species with a budding sense of symbolism and perhaps even a form of spirituality. Across Europe, we find Neanderthal sites where they intentionally buried their dead. Some graves show bodies placed in careful, deliberate positions. Does this imply a belief in an afterlife? A concept of self that persists beyond death? We can't know for certain, but it hints at a complex inner world, a form of consciousness wrestling with the same profound questions of existence that we do. They used mineral pigments like ochre, possibly for body painting. They collected eagle talons and unique shells, artifacts with no clear practical purpose, suggesting they were used as personal ornaments. In short, they had a culture. For over 350,000 years, they thrived. They were the dominant human species of their world. Then, everything changed. Around 60,000 years ago, a new group of humans began to push out of their ancestral homeland in Africa. Our species, Homo sapiens. These newcomers were different. They were lankier, built for warmer climates and long-distance travel. And they were spreading across the Middle East, into Asia, and finally, into the heart of Neanderthal territory in Europe. For the first time in millennia, the Neanderthals were no longer alone. They had neighbors. So, what happened when these two long-lost branches of the human family finally met? The old story was one of immediate, violent replacement. A brutal caveman war where the superior Homo sapiens simply wiped out their competitors. But as we've decoded the genomes of both our own species and the Neanderthals, a far more complex and intimate story has emerged. It turns out, the proof of their interaction is written in our very DNA. Scientists have successfully extracted and sequenced genetic material from ancient Neanderthal bones. When they compared this ancient genome to ours, they found something astonishing. Every person today of non-African descent carries between 1% and 4% Neanderthal DNA. So, what does this all mean? It means our ancestors didn't just meet Neanderthals, they had children with them. This discovery changes everything. It refutes the idea of a simple, clean extinction. The Neanderthals did not just vanish. A part of them was absorbed into us. They are a part of our story, a part of our biology. We are their living legacy. This interbreeding happened, but it doesn't seem to have been a complete merger. The genetic flow appears to have been limited, and mostly one way. And despite this interaction, despite this mixing, after thousands of years of coexistence, only one species was left standing. The Neanderthals, as a distinct population, still disappeared. The central question remains, why? There is no single, simple answer. Their disappearance was likely the result of a perfect storm of challenges, a convergence of multiple pressures that, together, became insurmountable for their small, scattered populations. We can group the leading theories into a few key areas. First, let's consider the climate. The last ice age wasn't a static period of unending cold. It was punctuated by wild, rapid climate swings. Temperatures could plummet or rise dramatically in the span of just a few decades. Neanderthals were exquisitely adapted to the cold, but perhaps not to this level of instability. Their hunting strategy was focused on the large, herd-dwelling animals of the cold steppe. As the climate fluctuated, the forests and grasslands that these animals depended on would have shifted, shrunk, or vanished. The Neanderthals' reliable food source would have become unpredictable. Essentially, the world they had mastered for hundreds of thousands of years was pulling the rug out from under them. Our own ancestors, Homo sapiens, having evolved in the climatically diverse and variable continent of Africa, may have been more adaptable generalists. Evidence suggests our diets were broader, incorporating small game, fish, birds, and a wider variety of plants. In an unstable world, being a specialist is risky. Being a generalist is an advantage. Second, there's the question of direct competition with us. This doesn't necessarily mean constant pitched battles. Competition in nature is often more subtle. Imagine two similar species trying to live in the same space and eat the same food. Even a small advantage for one species can, over many generations, lead to the extinction of the other. Did Homo sapiens have such an advantage? Perhaps. One area of debate is technology. While Neanderthal tools were effective, Homo sapiens of this period were innovating at a faster rate. We see the emergence of new technologies like bone needles for tailored clothing, and most critically, projectile weapons like the spear thrower, or atlatl. This device acted as a lever, allowing a hunter to throw a spear with far more force, speed, and accuracy, and from a safer distance. A Neanderthal hunting with a heavy, thrusting spear had to get dangerously close to their prey. A Homo sapiens with an atlatl could hunt more effectively and with less risk. Over time, this difference in hunting efficiency, however slight, could have been decisive. Another subtle advantage may have been social. Genetic evidence and archaeological finds suggest that Homo sapiens lived in larger groups and maintained more extensive social networks. While Neanderthal groups appear to have been small, family-based units, Homo sapiens were forming wider webs of connection, trading resources and information over vast distances. A larger social safety net means that if one group is struggling, another can help them. It allows for the faster spread of new ideas and technologies. It creates a larger, more resilient collective memory. In the face of climate change or resource scarcity, this social robustness could have been a critical survival tool that Neanderthals simply lacked on the same scale. Finally, we must consider a factor that combines the DNA evidence with their disappearance: the theory of assimilation and demographics. The Neanderthal population was never very large. Estimates suggest their total numbers across all of Eurasia at any one time may have been only in the tens of thousands, a population spread incredibly thin. Now, imagine a wave of Homo sapiens migrating out of Africa, with a population that was likely 10 times larger. As these larger groups moved into Neanderthal territories, the two peoples met and interbred. But what happens when a very small population mixes with a much, much larger one? Essentially, the smaller gene pool gets diluted. Over generations, the distinct Neanderthal genetic signature would be swamped by the sheer volume of Homo sapiens genes. They weren't necessarily conquered. They may have simply been absorbed. Their small bands may have joined with larger human groups for protection or resources, and over time, Their distinct physical traits and cultural identity slowly faded into the much larger incoming population. Their disappearance wasn't a sudden event, but a slow process of being genetically and culturally overwhelmed. Add to this the possibility that diseases carried by one species could have been devastating to the other, who lacked any immunity, and the picture becomes even clearer. Ultimately, there is no single dragon slayer that brought down the Neanderthals. It was not a simple case of us versus them. It was a complex and drawn-out process, likely involving all of these factors at once. A changing and unstable climate put their traditional way of life under stress. The arrival of a new, numerous, and highly competitive human species created new pressures for food and resources. This new species may have had slight advantages in technology and social organization, and through it all, interbreeding slowly diluted their population into our own. So, what does this all mean for us, the sole surviving species of humanity? The story of the Neanderthals is a profound and humbling mirror. It shows us that our own existence was not inevitable. For most of human history, the world was a multi-species place. Our survival is a contingent accident of evolution, a result of 1,000 small advantages and lucky breaks over tens of thousands of years. The Neanderthals represent a different path humanity could have taken, a different kind of consciousness that once shared our planet. Their story is a reminder that we are not the endpoint of evolution, but simply one branch of a vast and complex family tree. And as we look out into the universe and wonder if we are alone, it's worth remembering that for a very, very long time, we weren't even alone on our own planet. The ghosts of our lost cousins are with us still, carried in our own blood.